All right, listeners, buckle up. We're about to take a deep dive into some seriously mind-bending territory today.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
We're talking Unus Mundus and the simulation hypothesis.
Two of my favorite topics.
You guys sent in a crazy mix of stuff this time. Philosophy notes, AI research, even some stuff on consciousness.
And information theory, right?
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I'm already feeling a little overwhelmed just thinking about how to connect all these dots.
It's a challenge for sure, but that's what we're here for, right?
That's right. To make sense of this complex world, one deep dive at a time. So let's start by setting the stage. Unus Mundus. Now, this is a term coined by Carl Jung, and it basically proposes this underlying reality, like this invisible web connecting everything, both the mental and the physical realms.
Yeah. You could think of it like a shared psychic space, I guess, where like mind and matter aren't separate, but just different aspects of the same fundamental reality.
It's a trippy idea for sure. But it's not just some mystical concept. Well,
No, not at all. There are some really intriguing connections to contemporary science and information theory, which I know you mentioned earlier.
right. Information theory. I see some notes here about Shannon entropy and how it's used to measure information and uncertainty. To be honest, this stuff has always felt a little abstract to me.
It can be, yeah. But it's actually pretty straightforward at its core. Basically, information is all about reducing uncertainty. And Shannon entropy is a way to quantify how much information a message contains, based on how much it reduces our uncertainty about something.
So if a message is really predictable, it has low information content, right? Because it's not telling us anything new.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really cool. Think about data compression, like a JPEG image. It's a smaller version of a larger file, but it still gets the point across, even though some information is lost.
Ah, I see. So you're saying our brains might be doing something similar.
Right. They're constantly filtering and compressing the massive amount of sensory data we're bombarded with, distilling it down to the essential information.
Wow, so our brains are like super efficient data compressors.
Exactly. And this ties into some groundbreaking research on the free energy principle developed by Carl Friston. It basically suggests that biological systems, like our brains, they're always trying to minimize surprise.
Minimize surprise. Okay, now you're really losing me.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Well, think of it like this. You're walking through a forest, right? And suddenly you hear a loud rustle in the bushes. Your brain immediately freaks out. It's trying to figure out what caused the noise. Is it a harmless squirrel or a bear? Your brain uses its model of the world, built from past experiences, to predict what's going on and reduce that uncertainty.
Ah, okay, so it's like my brain is playing detective, always looking for clues and trying to predict what's going to happen next.
That's a great way to put it. And according to the free energy principle, the brain does this by minimizing free energy. It's a mathematical way to measure surprise or uncertainty.
All right, so we got information theory, data compression, and the brain as this prediction machine. But how does this all relate back to the Unus Mundus? It still feels like we're jumping between different universes here.
Okay, let me try to bridge the gap. If the Unus Mundus is this underlying reality connecting everything, and our brains are constantly building models of that reality, then maybe the process of minimizing surprise, of reducing free energy, is a way of aligning ourselves with this deeper level of reality.
So by making sense of the world, our brains are tapping into the Unus Mundus, this shared foundation of reality.
Exactly. And this starts to blur the line between the mental and the material, which is really at the heart of Jung's concept.
Okay, now things are getting interesting. We've got information theory connecting to the brain, and the brain potentially connecting to this deeper reality. It's like a chain reaction of whoa moments.
It is, and that chain reaction keeps going when we bring in the simulation hypothesis. If information is fundamental to reality, as we've been saying, and our brains are basically information processors, well, the idea of simulating a universe, of creating a reality based on information, doesn't seem so crazy anymore.
Wow, yeah, so you're saying the simulation hypothesis suggests we might be living in a super sophisticated computer program, right? Like the Matrix.
Right. And if information is the building block of both the simulated universe and the real universe, then the line between the two starts to get really fuzzy.
Okay, my brain is definitely in overdrive now. This is heavy stuff.
It is, but that's what makes it so fascinating, right? We're starting to see how these ideas from physics, information theory, neuroscience, and even philosophy all come together to help us explore the deepest questions about the nature of reality itself.
This is definitely a deep dive. And we're just getting started. Okay, so we're back and ready to go even deeper. Last time, we were starting to see these wild connections between the Unus Mundus, information theory, and the simulation hypothesis. It's pretty amazing how it all starts to fit together.
Yeah, it really is. It just goes to show you how interconnected knowledge is, how these ideas from different fields can suddenly illuminate each other in ways you wouldn't expect.
Absolutely. So let's talk more about this simulation hypothesis. We were saying earlier that if information is this fundamental building block of reality, well, then the idea of a simulated universe makes more sense. But why would anyone even want to create such a simulation in the first place? What's the point?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's fueled so much speculation. Some folks think it could be for research. Imagine an advanced civilization wanting to study history or social dynamics, maybe even consciousness itself. A simulation would be a pretty incredible tool for that kind of thing.
Oh, wow. So like a giant cosmic experiment. Are we just lab rats in some alien science project?
Huh. It's a possibility, right? Kind of unsettling, though, if you think about it too much. But there are other ideas, too. It could be for entertainment. It's some kind of crazy advanced gaming on a scale we can't even fathom.
So we're all just playing a cosmic video game. I'm not sure if that's more reassuring or more mind-blowing.
Right. It definitely makes you question everything you thought you knew about reality. But hey, that's the fun part, right? But, even beyond the why, this simulation hypothesis has some pretty profound implications for how we understand the universe.
Oh, yeah, for sure. What if the laws of physics, the very fabric of space-time, what if it's all just rules of the simulation? Could we even tell the difference?
That's the big question, right? Some physicists are even trying to look for glitches in the matrix, so to speak. Anomalies in the laws of physics that might hint at some kind of artificial manipulation.
Whoa, that's wild. So, trying to find evidence of a programmer tinkering with the code of reality.
Yeah, exactly. It would be a game changer if we ever found something like that. But even without glitches, there are all sorts of philosophical implications to consider. If we are living in a simulation, it makes you question the nature of knowledge itself.
Wait, hold on. How so?
Well, think about it. If our reality is basically a computer program, then our scientific models, all of our understanding of the universe, could be limited by the constraints of that program.
Oh, wow. That's kind of humbling, to think that our knowledge might just be limited by the boundaries of this simulated reality.
It is, yeah. But it also shows us how important imagination and open-mindedness are in science. We've got to be willing to question everything, even our most basic assumptions, and look for clues outside the box.
So where does the Unus Mundus fit into all of this? If we're in a simulation, where's this underlying reality that Jung talked about?
Okay, so if the simulation is based on information, like we've been saying, well, maybe the Unus Mundus is the source of that information, like the ultimate foundation from which the simulation arises.
Whoa, that's deep. Right. So the Unus Mundus is like the operating system of the simulation, the reality that generates the code.
That's a cool way to think about it. It suggests this even deeper connection between the mental and the material, even within this simulation. The simulation itself would just be another expression of the Unus Mundus, a product of this underlying reality connecting everything.
Wow, this is getting really meta. We're peeling back these layers of reality, trying to figure out what's actually real.
Yeah, and as we peel back those layers, we bump into some pretty heavy philosophical and ethical questions. If we are in a simulation, what does that mean for free will? Are our choices even really our own? Or are they all predetermined by the simulation?
Man, that's a big one. If someone else is calling the shots, do we really have any control over our own lives?
It's a question philosophers have been wrestling with forever, even without this whole simulation thing. But the simulation hypothesis just adds a whole other level of complexity to the whole debate.
And what about the ethics of it all? If some beings out there created our simulation, do they have any responsibility towards us?
That's another huge question. Do they have a moral obligation to look out for us? Or are they just observing us, like scientists studying ants? It's totally uncharted territory, ethically speaking.
So even if we did figure out we're in a simulation, it seems like we just end up with more questions than answers.
Maybe that's just the nature of any deep question, It's not always about finding all the answers, but about expanding your perspective and challenging what you thought you knew and appreciating the mystery of it all.
It's been a pretty mind-blowing journey so far. I'm definitely going to need some time to digest all this.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. But that's what makes it so fun. And, we've only scratched the surface of this Unus Mundus and simulation hypothesis stuff. There's still so much to explore. Like, how do these ideas relate to consciousness? Could we even simulate consciousness itself?
That's a question I definitely want to dive into. Maybe that's our next deep dive. Welcome back, everyone, for the final part of our deep dive. This exploration of Unus Mundus and the simulation hypothesis has really been quite the journey. I feel like my brain has been stretched in all sorts of new directions.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, how these ideas can really push us to question, like, everything we think we know about reality and about ourselves.
I completely agree. Last time we left off talking about the simulation hypothesis and all its crazy implications, you know, limits of knowledge, free will, ethics. I'm still processing it all, honestly.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious to see how this connects to consciousness.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like, could we actually simulate consciousness itself? Is that even possible?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Lots of philosophers and scientists are debating this very thing. Some say if we can, simulate the complexity of the brain, well, in theory, we could create artificial consciousness.
Okay, so you're talking about an AI that doesn't just, like, mimic human behavior, but actually experiences the world, like subjectively, has feelings, thoughts. Is that even possible?
It really depends on how we define consciousness in the first place. If we see it as this emergent property of, like, complex information processing, well, then, yeah, maybe a super advanced simulation could produce something that we would recognize as consciousness.
But wouldn't that just be a really sophisticated illusion? Like a copy, but not the real deal?
That's the crux of the debate right there. Some folks think any simulated consciousness would always be fundamentally different from our own. It would lack that depth, the richness of human experience.
I guess it all boils down to whether consciousness is just a product of the physical brain, or if there's something more to it, something that transcends the material.
Exactly. And that takes us back to dual aspect monism, right?
Yeah, that's right.
This idea that information and meaning are like two sides of the same coin, not separate, but always interconnected.
Right, so mind and matter aren't these distinct things, but expressions of a deeper underlying reality.
Precisely. And from this perspective, consciousness isn't just some byproduct of the brain, but an essential property of this underlying reality, of the Unus Mundus. Our brains, with their incredible neural networks, might actually be acting as receivers or transducers, tuning into this field of consciousness.
Wait, so you're saying our brains aren't creating consciousness, but accessing it, like radio's tuning into a specific frequency?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And if that's the case, if this underlying reality is the source of consciousness, well, then maybe a simulated universe, even if it's information-based, could tap into that same source, right?
That's a wild idea, but it makes me wonder about the meaning of life, If consciousness is this fundamental thing and we're all connected to this deeper reality, does that give our lives, like, inherent purpose?
It definitely opens up that possibility. From that perspective, we're not just isolated individuals, right? We're expressions of a universal consciousness taking part in this grand cosmic unfolding.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, awe-inspiring vision. But it also raises some questions. Like, if we're all connected to this unified consciousness, why do we experience ourselves as separate individuals? And why is there so much suffering in the world?
Yeah. Those are the big questions, aren't they? Age-old mysteries. And while dual-aspect monism doesn't really give us easy answers, it does offer a different way of approaching them.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Well, think of it this way. Maybe our experience of individuality is like a temporary illusion. It's necessary for us to, participate in this world of form and experience. We're like actors playing different roles on the stage of life.
So we're all part of this cosmic play, but we forget our true nature while we're caught up in our roles.
Exactly. And maybe the whole purpose of this cosmic play, of this grand drama, is to experience the full spectrum of existence,
Yeah.
To learn and grow through both joy and sorrow and evolve towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and the nature of reality itself.
It's a profound thought that suffering could be a catalyst for growth. Like a contrast that helps us appreciate the beauty and wonder of life.
And it's an idea that you find echoed in many spiritual traditions, and from this viewpoint, the meaning of life isn't about achieving some external goal, but about embracing the journey, the unfolding of our potential within this vast tapestry of existence.
So it's not about the destination, but about the journey itself.
Exactly. It's about being present, being mindful, being compassionate, and embracing the mystery and wonder of it all.
This whole conversation has been a whirlwind of mind-blowing ideas. I feel like I need to sit with all of this for a while, let it all really sink in.
Yeah, I hear you.
Thanks for guiding us through this exploration. I have a feeling I'll be pondering these questions for a long time to come.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, the journey of discovery never really ends, right? Keep asking questions, keep searching for those aha moments, and keep diving deep into the mysteries of the universe. And, the depths of your own consciousness.
And to all of you listening, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it sparked your curiosity, gave you some food for thought, and inspired you to keep exploring the big questions. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.